Kolbrin Bible, Book 4, Children of Fire, Chapter 2, Hibsathy. SOF 2:1. These things must not be entrusted to common folk. Neither must they be degraded by disclosing them to such as would profane them. They were once reserved for those who were exalted in wisdom and virtue, in those days of Haremta, mouth of God on earth. They were hidden from those in high places. SOF 2:2. This is one among the lesser mysteries, the ritual of the twice born. It is a ceremony to regain spiritual vigor and to restore spiritual power, whereby a chosen one dies and rises again. It is a grim undertaking fraught with danger. It is not for the spiritually weak or for the faint-hearted. Not all survive to walk again upon the friendly ground of earth. SOF 2:3. Only the older men who had completed the 3 cycles of 7 years were accepted. They had to be men with wisdom and courage, with the strength and fortitude to survive. Other essentials were absolute purity and complete self-discipline. The ability for self-sacrifice and a strict sense of duty were demanded. Only men possessing all these qualities could cross the border in consciousness and return. To be deficient in any essential quality meant death. SOF 2:4. The tree of life has many branches, and that which is initiation bears the best fruit. It is about this that your brother writes. It began in that faraway glorious period before the days of wickedness, which caused men to walk in darkness, in the days when they walked in the light of truth. SOF 2:5. A house of hidden places was maintained, so that all who had any part in governing the lives of the people, whether as king or priest or official, could prove themselves worthy before becoming encumbered with the office. SOF 2:6. Later it came about that the hidden places had to be further secured, and only men long established in goodness could enter them. Those in high places and those with power shirked the austerities and dangers demanded, and thereby they cut themselves off from the light of truth. The kings and governors who ruled in Egypt during all the many long generations of twilight and darkness were born to the frailties of the flesh. Seen only through earthly eyes, they lacked the clear guidance of revelation and knowledge. The Sarif egg remains. It will give up its secrets on the distant day when hatched under the breast of understanding. Then it will open its eyes, unfold, and spread its wings to reveal the light of truth. SOF 2:7. The spirit of man is like an unweaned child which has wandered away and become lost among the rocks and caves. Unless it is found and given sustenance from the source of its life, it will perish. SOF 2:8. The first temple of the Shrine of the Hidden Places was built on the sacred heights. It was a temple within an inner court where there were lesser temples and the rooms of priests and teachers. The whole was surrounded by a courtyard and gardens, and beneath the main temple were the 3 caverns of initiation. Later, the temple of the Shrine of the Hidden Places was built during a time when the light was revealed throughout the land. SOF 2:9. Though previously the shrines of the twice-born had been concealed in the smaller temples, when Ramses built the great temple of Ramen, it contained within itself both temple and shrine of the all-highest God. Also, there were caverns of initiation underneath in the hall of the temple, which faced east and west. Between pillars of pure stone was the portal of the outer sanctuary. As the sun rises in the east to give life to the day, so was the devoted priest placed in the east of the sanctuary to open the services of worship and to instruct, like a father, those who came to him with understanding. In the ceiling above the candidates was the symbol of the sun, and from it extended 7 hands. This represented the sun of life, dispensing the vitalizing forces of life from their font within the circle of creative consciousness. Behind the priest was representations of the 10 rays of power that flowed out from the all-highest God. when he created earth, and which became the attributes of his spirit. They are love, foresight, wisdom, insight, all knowledge, strength, resolution, justice, mercy, and courage. SOF 210. Between the devoted priest and the wall behind him was the triangular representation of the three sublime essences, the Supreme Spirit, Soul Spirit, and Forming Spirit, the three parts of Spirit ever in unity. The entrance to the sanctuary was in the east, and above this was a representation of the great Eye, the secrets of which cannot be written. Before the devoted priest was a hidden doorway, and this led down to the marriage chamber. In this chamber were performed the rites known as the marriage of the soul. Here, too, spiritual nourishment could be inhaled through fragrant smoke of incense, prepared from secret essences and ingredients which activate life. Here was learned the profound secret of the soul, the secret that was in the silence. SOF 211. Behind the sacred place in the temple, behind the place of flame, was the thrice hidden door, and this led down to the chambers of darkness, which were before the caverns of initiation. SOF 212. Before the first chamber of darkness, there was an antechamber containing a small lamp and light. Cut on the walls were representations of life and spirit. The candidate had studied with the priest of the upper temple for 7 years and been observed by one of the twice-born for 7 years. Now, here in the antechamber, he became an anointed one. SOF 213. The anointed one went into the first chamber of darkness for testing by one of the twice-born of a lesser order. Here, it was discovered whether he truly desired the great illumination, and whether he had all earthly desires and ambitions under control. Here, he was warned of the dangers he would have to face and was tested for courage and fortitude. Before him now, there was only one choice: victory or death. This was the chamber of the red light. SOF 214. Now the candidate and he who attended upon him stood before the next door, and the priest said to one who stood there, having realized by his own preparation that the external is unreal, and having eliminated earthly desires and substituted spiritual ones, he who aspires stands ready. He has tamed the wild steed of his body, so that it is completely under his command. He has awakened the man within the man, and the eyes of inner vision are open. He has made the irrevocable decision and is one ready to go forward. SOF 215. The anointed one was admitted into the second chamber of darkness, and here he was uncovered and placed within a bath of cold water, where he remained for a period determined by the burning of a lamp. This was the chamber of the purple light. SOF 216. From here, the anointed one passed into a small chamber which was the entrance to the caverns of initiation. He now stood before the portal of Rasta, and recited the prayer before the portal. O unnameable God, give me a burden of suffering to bear, and place about my shoulders the yoke of tribulation. O God, fill the empty spaces of my spirit with pain. O grant me such fortitude that even under an almost unendurable load of distress, I may be willing to lighten the burden and suffering of another. Even as I stand prepared for the awaiting test, I ask that should I be returned to the light of earth, I be granted a share in the afflictions of others, for I need the strength given by suffering and sorrow, and will welcome them for the benefits they bestow. Then one who stood in this place gave the anointed one water to drink and said this prayer. O unnameable God, hear the prayer of the anointed one. Strengthen him with such courage and fortitude that he will not fail in his hour of awful trial, but shall pass beyond the place of terror, through the portal of death, and so may shine with the protecting radiance, and therefore return unharmed in spirit and body. SOF 217. The anointed one entered the first cavern of initiation and was tested there in such manner that no ordinary mortal could endure it. After 3 days he came out, saying to one who stood there, O acceptable suffering, what has been decreed is indeed best. SOF 218. After passing through the first two caverns of initiation, the candidate became an enwrapped one, and in the last small cavern of the Lord of the Twice-Born, released his spirit. The enwrapped one was then placed within the womb of rebirth, and there, within the tomb of stone, he was left 7 days. Here came complete liberation of the spirit. It floated out through the confining stone, and went as it willed. No words of men, however learned, can ever describe this experience. SOF 219. The spirit of the enwrapped one returned to the body at the behest of the Lord of the Twice-Born, and he who had survived became a twice-born one. When led forth into the place of glorification, his face shines with an inner beauty indescribable from that day onward. His conduct and attitudes are changed, and he is at peace with all men and with himself. He needs nothing from earthly life and seeks nothing. He accepts and enjoys whatever life offers, for he has learned the answer to the riddle of life and solved the secret of the ages. SOF 220. Your brother was one who underwent the initiation of the Twice-Born, and he has drawn the curtain aside a little to reveal only what is permitted. It is little enough, but sufficient for you to understand why, when kings and governors rose to position and power, they declined the ordeal. It is understandable, for the final ordeal brought earthly life as close as possible to extinction, without complete severance of the spiritual umbilical cord. Before this went more than 20 years' arduous preparation. Yet long and terrible though it was, the time and austerity did not exceed the necessary limits by even 1 jot. In sorrow, your brother must say that it was not an ordeal required to obtain something man has never possessed. It was to regain something he had lost. It was, however hard it may seem, the lowest price payable for the secret of the ages. SOF 221. For long years, he who aspired to become one of the Twice-Born had to practice the awakening of his spirit and bring his body under complete control. The first thing to overcome was met long before any threshold was approached. It was something which lurked in the uncontrolled thoughts of men. The frightening experiences during the years of preparation had to be modified and their effect channeled off. Otherwise, the awakening spirit would have been completely overwhelmed. As the material body of man cannot come close to a blazing fire, so cannot the spirit approach too close to the sphere of divinity. SOF 222. Having arisen from the womb of rebirth, the spirit is completely freed from any doubt about the immortality of man. Can a man doubt the source of his sunlight when he can see the sun arising in glory before his eyes? Having joined the Twice-Born, each man has a choice. He can go on to higher development within the realms of light, or he can remain to help others. Your brother chose to remain. SOF 223. The wisdom of the Twice-Born has spread to every corner of the earth, and caverns of initiation are opened everywhere. But increasingly, through the years, men have declined to undergo the austerities and trials essential to bring them into the clear light of truth. Therefore, the places of initiation decay, and their secrets are lost. Men grope in the dark and try to open a door to which they have no key. If a man has not the courage or the time, the inclination or the ability to sail to a far distant land, then if he would know about that land, he must listen to those who have made the journey. So it is with those who would know the secret of the ages. Men possess creeds of little value because they are unwilling to pay the price of something better. SOF 224. Your brother has no way of explaining his ultimate experience to others, although he has looked upon the face of truth and now understands the purpose of life. What he has seen must remain locked within the heart. Though he no longer has to be satisfied with belief alone, he cannot extend his certainty to others. Yet men forever seek him out, hoping to share with him the wonderful knowledge which has so gloriously transformed his life. This he tries to do within the limits imposed by his own expanded enlightenment. Beyond that, he cannot go. SOF 225. The spirit of the Twice-Born can be liberated at will. How often have you seen your brother in a state of ecstasy, which he cannot describe? It is a state beginning in quiet bliss, flowing outward in bright radiance from an inner light, which can even illuminate the material darkness about him. He hears the music of the sacred spheres and sees the throbbing pulsations of life heaving about him. Like waves upon the great seas, he becomes aware of an inflowing of unspoken knowledge from a surrounding power. It does not come from any one point, but appears to flow out of all things and to penetrate all things. Material objects lose their density and become visible within. They become as though compounded of 10,000 whirling spheres of brightness. Colors are no longer dull and restricted. They become infinite in depth and number. The spirit becomes lost in adoration and wonder at the beauty revealed in everything. The soul is aware of something glorious within all this, and knows it for the spirit outflowing from its source. SOF 226. There is a complete unconsciousness of others, for the greater sight transcends their material bodies. The spirit of men are seen in a harmony of colors, and their bodies as whirling masses of power. The experiencing soul is lost in a sea of sensitivity and feeling. There is a swelling surge of harmony, a sounding of glorious chords. It is the sea that washes the shores of eternity, lapping upon the nearer strand. SOF 227. It is an experience that no one can give to another or adequately describe to him. It is the earned reward of those who have paid the price. It is not the only reward, for throughout the life of one who is twice born, there is boundless feeling of well-being. Sickness and disease are unknown. There is an abiding love for all men, a sense of brotherhood, and over all this the certain knowledge of the immortality of the soul and its unity with its source. SOF 228. The impressions received in moments of illumination are everlasting. They fill the spirit with a glorified splendor. There are flashes of inspired visions, and the future unrolls, and can be read as the past. There is a form of joyous rapture experienced by those who have risen from the womb of rebirth, and when it comes, it can no more be held back than the sun can be stayed in its rising. SOF 229. When the body of your brother lay enwrapped within the womb of rebirth, his spirit was carried out as on the wings of a seraph, and became lost in a sphere beyond understanding. He knew not which way to go or what to seek. Then, like a roll of distant thunder, there was a swelling sound, and there came an overdazzling light. It grew steadily more brilliant until your brother saw a beautiful form of divine glory arrayed in a splendor beyond all earthly bounds. The cumbersome words of earth cannot do justice to what your brother wishes to describe. It is like trying to sew a silk garment with rope, or to eat sweetmeats with a spade. Words are wholly inadequate symbols. The vision of glory which had been granted passed away, and your brother found himself in the familiar sphere of the spirit. SOF 230. Once the mysterious border has been crossed, it remains open to ever after, and can be recrossed almost at will. You are told of these things because your brother knows that the age of the twice-born draws to its close. Because of those who have devoted their lives to the discovery of truth, there is progress in the sphere of the spirit. Nothing has been lost. Nothing has been in vain. The great gates are still closed, but they are no longer bolted. Now they will open at a knock. The road is better marked, and the way more clearly indicated. They who lit the path have departed from earth, but their service has not ended. They serve still in another place, while life on earth moves forward. Life in the sphere of the spirit does not stand still.